Welcome back, David Heurtel in for Elias. The parental rights movement has created a debate about just how much control families should have over their children's upbringing and education. But what is perhaps most interesting about this movement is how its supporters have chosen to defend parental rights selectively, supporting the rights of conservative values and ignoring progressive ones. Now progressive families are arguing that they too have the right to raise their children and how they see fit. Raise their children how they see fit, rather. Joining us now is Adam Zivo. He is a National Post columnist and the director of the Center for Responsible Drug Policy. Welcome back to the show, Adam.
Oh, thanks for having me back on the show.
So I think the first question for a lot of listeners is going to be, what are parental rights in a school context? Because this morning I was myself, I being a lawyer, the same frame of mind, I was thinking, oh my God, are we going to talk about divorce? I mean, what are we talking about here? This is a growing phenomena here in North America, isn't it? But in terms of school and what schools can and cannot do with children, correct?
Well, the thing is that parental rights, as it's debated today, is not something which formally exists within Canadian law. Mm-hmm. There is some recognition of it within U.S. law, but it's better to describe it as a principle. There's this principle that parents should be able to raise their kids how they see fit, in the ideological or intellectual environment they see fit, and that schools should not intrude upon the family and impose certain values that some families may find offensive or just incompatible with their beliefs.
So give me a few examples that we've seen. I think mostly in the U.S., but we've seen certain examples in Canada also, correct?
Well, yeah. So there are two very popular examples, which I think are actually fairly justified. So parental rights became very popular starting in 2021 when several U.S. states moved to ban critical race theory or gender theory from schools. And here's the thing. I think that most of us can agree that there should be basic anti-racist and LGBTQ inclusion in schools. Education that tells people that you shouldn't bully someone just because they're different, that there's an underlying humanity to all of us that we should all respect. But when you get into a deeper dive on these issues, you end up getting into political content that can be hard to parse out. Is it better to take, for example, a progressive stance on racism that really focuses on structural issues, or a more conservative one that focuses more on individual responsibility? Do we want to take the most radical forms of gender theory, or do we want to, for example, give some more recognition of gender-critical perspectives? Even within these respective communities, these issues are quite vigorously debated, but unfortunately, many schools have chosen to only prioritize the most progressive views possible. And there's nothing wrong with having those views. Everyone has justified in having whatever views they want. But when you privilege them so aggressively in a school, it amounts to indoctrination. And I think that conservative families have been justified in pushing back in this particular case.
So while this is happening, what you're suggesting in your column, and of course, correct me if I'm oversimplifying here, is that there seems to be, let's just say, I would qualify it as much more effective movement on the conservative side of the parental rights debate or issues or interventions in the public school systems. And there doesn't seem to be as much effectiveness on the progressive side.
Yeah, the conservatives are the ones who are organizing most aggressively on this because schools tend to be institutionally biased towards progressive politics and are, in some cases, inappropriately imposing these politics on kids. And I understand that. Where I disagree with the parental rights movement is when they go beyond just controlling the intellectual side of their own kids and try to influence what other kids consume. So many of these activists have been pushing for total bans on books that they view as being too progressive. Often these books, involve LGBTQ issues. They portray trans and gay people. And as a gay man, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I like those kinds of books. But I understand if a conservative family doesn't want their kid to access that in their school library. And the appropriate response would be to advocate for stronger measures that allow parents to control what their kids access. But when you push for a blanket ban, you are denying the children of progressive families the opportunity to access those books should they choose to, and you are infringing upon the parental rights of a progressive family. So blanket bans are bad, but maximizing individual choice for families over their own kids is good.
So my next question about all this, Adam, is what is government's role? What are the school board's roles? I mean, ultimately, it's the public side that determines curriculum, that determines, what the children's ultimately learn in school. Well, so where's the interaction there?
Well, I think that Canadian government should be more focused on mandating institutional political neutrality and engaging in some level of educational reform. And I think that more opt-out opportunities should be provided to conservative parents, well, any parent really. And I'm going to use a case study here in Ontario, like in many parts of Canada, there's this debate about, drag events for youth, which sometimes happen in schools. And so last year, I believe, the TDSB, the Toronto District School Board, implemented an opt-out opportunity for families. And there was a backlash from some progressive families who said, well, that, would suggest that these events are wrong. So they removed that opt-out opportunity, which I think is bad. I think that a fair compromise would be to allow these events to occur so that kids who want to go or families that want to go can go to them, but to protect an opt-out opportunity, to protect the ability to opt out for families who disagree with this kind of content.
That it becomes what the definition of neutrality is in school, right? That's where the debate could be.
Yep. We need to maximize the choice of individual families instead of trying to impose either progressive values or conservative values on everyone. But I think, as is often the case in these culture wars, each side is so locked in to their own position and so fixated on vilifying the other side that these kinds of reasonable debates just don't happen. The progressives say that the conservative families are all, raging bigots, and the conservative side, the progressive side, they're all like groomers or pedophiles or whatever. And neither side is willing to recognize that most people are pretty normal. Most people don't want to hurt kids. And we need to calm down and find a decent compromise.
Oh, there's that word again, the word we don't hear enough of anymore, compromise. That's the key. Adam, thank you so much for shedding some light on this very, very important conversation, and more to come, I'm sure. Thank you as always.
It's a pleasure. It's always great to chat.
Adam Zivo, National Post columnist and the director of the Center for Responsible Drug Policy.